session. Oh, well, I'd like to give you the option first. I'm sorry, I've got my lovely Dinnerly here joining me, and she's so much more tech savvy than me. So lovely to have you here with me. My name is Kerry, for any of those that I haven't spoken with.
Learn how to be a good do better. Do my thing.
I will ask for everyone to mute themselves. Otherwise, we will mute from our end too. It just helps the flow of the webinar. And yes, of course, we are recording, so we will have this available, particularly for our students. We like to provide as many resources for our students on our learning portal. So if you're agreeing to that, it should come up on your screen that you agree to being recorded. We can also, you can turn off your cameras if you don't wish to be seen. The chat box is available for any questions as we go along. If you have any questions, we're going to go into some question and answer towards the end with our speakers. So we'll address any questions towards the end, but please feel free to use the chat box. So again, for all of those who have just joined, welcome. My name's Kerry, and we are the National Business Institute of Australia. And we're really excited. This is our first webinar, and we're really happy that you've joined us. And we've got some really wonderful speakers with some great industry experience, and the qualifications that they have just is mind-blowing to me. So coming from an education background, it's truly significant, and I'm really happy to have them on board. My role here at NBIA is overseeing operations and compliance, and speaking with these incredible, talented people daily who are our trainers and assessors as well. So I've also got Dinnerly in the room with me. Anyone who's on our program or called us or anything, you may have dealt with Dinnerly before. So
hello, everyone. So nice to see a bunch of familiar names. Actually, I've spoken to a few of you before. Nice to see you all here.
Perfect. So we'll get started. So our topic of the day, actually, can I just get you to minimize, sorry, my technical side there. So today our topic is about what does it take to be a trusted conveyancer, or in some people's words, the best conveyancer. And I'd like to begin by, if we move to the next slide, I'd like to begin by acknowledging our traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting today. So today we're based in Cheltenham in Melbourne, and that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So welcome to all of you. So today we are truly very honoured to have Jonathan Green. Now, Jonathan is actually one of our trainers and assessors, and he also is very talented, as you can see here. So he was admitted as a solicitor in 2018. He initially practiced in property and construction at a boutique mid-tier firm. Now he actually works for one of the largest national firms in Australia, specialising in charity, not-for-profit, human rights and social impact law. And there he provides a broad range of specialist advice and support to organisations working in those industries, including property law, commercial law, governance and compliance, M&A, tax law, disputes, and all the rest. He is a very lovely dad of two. Somehow he manages it all, which is amazing. Loves coffee, of course, because he's from Melbourne, and is an avid soccer fan, which is very exciting with the Matildas recently. So we also are going to have Carol McCann on board. So if we have lots of students on board, I'm sure you've spoken and met with Carol before. She's a talented trainer assessor with us, who actually did also complete her advanced diploma of conveyancing with us. So for all of our students, you have that added expertise of someone who's actually been through what you're doing as well. So it's really handy when you're having a one-on-one session with our trainers. She's skilled and qualified in the areas of property law and conveyancing. She's an active member of the Australian Institute of Conveyancers and has been graduating our students since 2021. She also enjoys playing the round of golf, cooking, and she's a rugby fan, so we won't hold that against her. She's actually based in Queensland and has a lot of knowledge of particularly the eastern states. So, you know, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, where actually a lot of our students do come from, which is fantastic. So thanks, Julie. So today, again, what are we covering off? So we just wanted to give you a bit of an idea, first of all, of what conveyancing is, because some of you may be either working in conveyancing, so you already know what it is. You might be a student, so also learning exactly what it is and what it involves. But you might just be completely new to this area, which is wonderful. You know, is this somewhere that you want to take yourself and your career? So we're going to cover off what conveyancing sort of is, just to start. Then Jonathan's got to jump into some key steps and issues to consider in a conveyance. So giving you some industry insight, you know, what really is involved here and what do you need to look out for? You know, what do you need to be the best and trusted conveyancer? And then we'll run through, you know, how do I do it? How do I become a conveyancer in Australia? So we'll run you through some of those things as well. So let's kick it off. I'd like to introduce Carol, and she'll run us through what is conveyancing. Carol, hello and welcome. And you'll need to just make sure your microphone's there, Carol. We can't hear you yet.
Carol, you're muted.
Oh, I know. I just looked and I went, I'm muted. Sorry about that. No one can hear me. Okay, well, as you know, thank you very much, Kerry, for introducing me. I'm Carol McCann, and yes, I do love my rugby, and that I watch it every weekend. So apart from, as I call it, aerial ping pong ball in Victoria. So, okay, so what is conveyancing? Okay, so it actually is the legal process of the transferring ownership of property. So that could be between a purchaser and a vendor. It could be spouse to spouse. It could even involve a deceased estate. So that's what the legal process is. It's just transferring the ownership of the property from one person or entity to another. And yes, there is a lot of legal steps that are involved. There's a lot of paperwork which is required in the buying or selling of the real estates, and these include, you know, houses, apartments, land, even businesses. Okay, so, and business is an expertise, but you may get involved in that as well. So what does it include? So it includes the transfer of ownership from one person to another. Property title searches, which is very important in conveyancing. You've got to make sure that the title's in the right name, and you know you're buying from the person who actually owns the property. You'll also be preparing and reviewing contracts. You also will be protecting and advancing your client's interests, which is one of the main things. You're protecting your client. And other things that involved is, you know, stamp duty. Is there any stamp duty? Can there be, you know, is there exemptions on stamp duty for some of your clients? Then you have the preparation of settlement, which is very in depth, and these days is all done online. One of them might be PEXA, another is Smokeball, and these are internet web programs that you can do it now all online, which is an easier process. And then you have notices, so notice of acquisitions and so on. So that's what conveyancing is all about. As I have mentioned before, it is a very complex and detailed industry. So there's a lot of legal and financial considerations that you need to take into account. It's important to have a qualified professional, such as when you finish the NBIA course and you apply for your license, so such as licensing conveyancers, solicitors, and then guide you through the process. Excuse me, sorry, I have a bit of a cold. So this helps ensures that the transactions is legally sound and that both the parties are protected, their interests are protected, and that's what you need to do as a conveyancer. You need to protect the interests of your client. So what can we do and what can't we do? Okay, so we are allowed as a conveyancer, we can draw up agreements. They might be letter of engagements, conflict of interests, paperwork, all of that. We can do contracts. We can do the transfer or lease that is necessary to give effect to the transaction. So other legal work is giving advice or preparation, perusal, exchange, and registration of documents. Now, what is important is what we aren't allowed to do. We can't apply for a grant, probate, letters of administration, give investment or financial advice, or give a broader advice or undertake legal work that is not conveyancing work. Now, down the bottom, you will see a link. Now, yes, it applies to Victoria, but every state and every territory advises what a conveyancer can do and what they can't. So what I do suggest is just open up this link, and then if you're in New South Wales, it's exactly the same. It's under the Conveyancing Licensing Act. It tells you exactly what you can and what you cannot do. And it's a very important website to have a look at. So that's me for the moment. So I'm going to hand you over to the lovely Jonathan, and he's going to discuss the key issues involved in conveyancing. So I'm going to leave that with you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Carol, and good to see all the names, not seeing any faces, but good to see all the names on this call. Hopefully we can add some value to you over this next little while. And if you're just starting out, give you a bit of an insight. If you are already in this space and working in conveyancing, hopefully give you some takeaways that will be helpful for the work that you're doing. When we're dealing with conveyancing, we're generally dealing with the most valuable thing that someone will ever purchase, and most of their finances and resources and often a lot of their their emotions are tied up in the property that we are assisting with conveyancing with. So it is really, really important that we act as a trusted professional in these transactions. It can be incredibly costly. There can be huge legal ramifications when things go wrong. And so making sure that everything is done really thoroughly and that we are taking all the necessary steps is really important. So what I'm going to go through over the next little while is just some of the key issues and things that you need to be thinking about when you're doing conveyancing. And these things will help ensure that you're able to be that trusted professional and able to provide your client with the best service that is possible. The first one to talk about is verification of identity. And it might seem like a really simple one, but it's actually really, really important. The reason that it's important is that if there is fraudulent behavior and things go pear-shaped in a conveyance and you didn't do a verification of identity, you can personally be held liable. So it's really important to do the verification of identity, to look at the identity documents of an individual and fill in the form. There is, in most states and territories, there's a form that that's generally put out by the Real Estate Institute or one of those sorts of entities that will take you through the information that's required as a checklist for doing a verification of identity. But it's a really good practice to get into right from the very starting point when you're first kicking off a matter, is to do your verification of identity and ensure that you've got instructions to proceed. And so making sure that those things are in place is super important. The next is title searches. And title searches is just as important, if not more, as verification of identity. A lot of things that could go wrong can be stemmed at the initial point by doing a title search. We here in Australia operate under a system of title by registration. It's called the Torrens title system. You may know about it, you may have heard about it. But basically the idea is that if your name is on the title, you're the property owner. And it means that there isn't all these disputes about, in the old days, you'd have a deed and the deed would be held in your safe. And if you lost the deed or somebody else got hold of the deed, then they could make a claim that they own the property. The great thing about the Torrens title system and title by registration, it means that there is a central register whereby all of the titles and that's in each state and territory, that's administered by the state or territory. And it means that a lot of those issues are not an issue in this day and age. There are still some properties that are under old title. And that's a rarity, but occasionally you pop these, you see these pop up, and often it's very old properties that haven't changed hands in over 100 years, sort of thing. But generally speaking, whenever you do a conveyance, you're going to be dealing with Torrens title. And so the easiest way to work out who holds the property is to do a title search. They're not expensive. I'm sure you've heard of them before. I'm sure some of you have done them before. But they tell you a number of things. They tell you who holds the property and who the registered proprietor is. And if that's different to what's on the contract of sale, then you know that there's a problem, and you know that you may be dealing with a property that something has gone wrong, or somebody is trying to sell you a dud. So it's really important to do those searches. The other things it tells you about is there a mortgage on the title? Are there any encumbrances? So for instance, are there any easements or caveats or things like this that you need to know about in terms of that may affect the title of the property, and may be needed to be dealt with prior to the conveyance going ahead. So doing a title search, it's not expensive, doesn't take long, but can save a huge amount of hassle. Really important. And it should be just part of the process whenever you're starting a new matter, that you do a title search. There's other searches as well that are really important in a conveyance, and generally speaking, you will be required, if you're the vendor, to undertake these searches and provide for them under a disclosure statement. And those are called different things in different states and territories. But generally, it's a it's a statement that provides all of these searches and it gives you an opportunity, if you're considering purchasing the property, to look at, what are the issues, what are the things that might impact upon the property, or that you need to know about if you're going to purchase the property. So it's really important if you're thinking of purchasing a property. Once you have, sorry, if you've got a client who is thinking about purchasing a property, once you've received the disclosure statement and you've looked at that, that you also get your own searches as well. And whilst there's some cost to the client involved in that, it just means that you can make sure that you've got the most up to date, that it has all the information that you need. If you're just relying upon the searches that are provided to you in a disclosure statement, then you're potentially doing your client a disservice and not making sure that everything is as it says it is. So really important to do that. Those searches will provide for things like any environmental issues that you need to know about, any issues regarding access to the property. Are there any compulsory acquisitions that are notices that are underhand? Is there heritage listing? Is it in a fire danger area? All of these sorts of things, have the council rates been paid? Have the water rates been paid? And so once you go to actually reach the settlement point, you'll need to, and I'll talk about this shortly, but you'll need to do a statement of adjustments. And so you'll need to have those up-to-date figures and make sure that that they are up to date, so that your client isn't paying things that they shouldn't be paying. And so doing those other searches, if you are acting for a purchaser, is really important. Then we look at the contract, and contracts are generally broken into two elements. One is the general clauses, and the other is your special clauses, or your special conditions, and your general conditions. And so your general conditions will be the same across the board and there are different forms of contract, but if you're using a contract that is produced by one of the regulators in the various different states and territories, then it means that you can look at that contract and you can know with some degree of certainty as to what is contained in those general conditions. And whilst it's important to read through and to look at them, what is in them, and you're able to then advise your client accordingly on the basis. And as you do more conveyances, you'll understand, what are the key issues to think through and to know about. Your special conditions are conditions that you add in, and they're different to what is already provided for in the contract to sale under the general conditions. They're things that you are adding in, and you might have a list of special conditions that you add in to every contract, but you might also have some where you're seeking to amend some of the general conditions, or where you're seeking to add in additional conditions that aren't provided for under the general conditions. And so it's important to, when you're looking through a contract, to be thinking through, what are the things that might help make this particular contract something that is going to work for my client. And bearing in mind that there may be varying degrees of how much negotiating power you have. If you're going into an auction and you're acting for the purchaser, then you may have very little negotiating power, because there may be several people going into it. If you're the winning bidder, then there's no cooling off, and so you're straight into it, and so you may not have the ability to really demand much to be changed. Whereas in a private sale, you may have much more negotiating power and much more ability to request these sorts of additions. Some of them, may be things that that are like an electronic signing clause or things like that are easy enough and they're not controversial, and it's just for the ease of everybody involved. But others might be much more significant, and people might not be happy with having them added in, and you might have to do some negotiating around those. Along with your contract, you'll have your disclosure statement. We talked about that before. That will provide all of the searches and also, provide some key information based on the jurisdiction that you're in and what is required to be disclosed in that jurisdiction. Whenever you're looking at doing a conveyance, you need to think about stamp duty, and in particular, this is for purchases. So stamp duty is paid by purchaser upon the purchase going through, and that's a responsibility of you as a conveyancer. Just next slide, please. When you, I've jumped over caveat. That's why. You may. Sorry, I've jumped quite ahead there. No. Go back to caveat. Sorry, I've skipped a few there. When you are talking with your client, this is once again for purchases. You should generally mention to them that you can put a caveat on the title. Now, they may not want that, and it may not be useful, especially if there's a very short window before settlement. But it's something worthwhile mentioning and making sure that they know is available. There's a often made mistake around caveats, that caveats are some sort of protection, and to a degree they do provide some protection, but caveats don't stop a transaction from occurring. Caveats ensure that there is notification. So what happens is if there is a dealing on a title or an attempt to make a dealing on a title, i.e. to transfer it or to add a mortgage or something like that, and if it's got a caveat on it, it will provide a notification. And there will be an opportunity for the caveat holder to respond and to be able to take any relevant action to protect their interest. So it's important to understand what a caveat does. It provides that notification to your client. It doesn't provide a blanket protection. And certainly if you don't take relevant action, then the dealing can go ahead. But it is, excuse me, it is important to make sure that that's offered and the client knows that that's a possibility. The next thing I want to talk about is nomination. You may have a client who, because they attended a auction or somebody else attended an auction on their behalf, or for other reasons, their name isn't on the contract of sale. And so there is this process, and you may have heard of it before, of being able to nominate another purchaser. What you need to make sure is that the contract to sale provides for that, and if your client wants that it's not excluded, and that you're able to allow for that to occur. And so having that conversation with your client, are you going to be the only purchaser? And sometimes people will sign a contract to sale, but their intention is that both them and their spouse, for instance, are going to be on that certificate of title. And so you need to ask those questions and really get to the bottom of who is going to be the proprietor on title. Is it going to be you? Is it going to be somebody else? Sometimes somebody will go into it with the intention of buying it, but for various reasons, they might want somebody else's name on title. And so that's, all of these things are important in working out how you approach it and what's going to be possible. You don't want to get into a situation where they assume that they'll be able to sign the contract to sale and then have somebody else's name on the title, and the nomination clauses don't allow for that. So it's really important to check that and clarify that with your client prior to proceeding. Conditional clauses. These are your subject to finance clauses, subject to pest inspection, subject to building inspection, etc., etc. Generally, these are a little bit harder to negotiate in, like I was saying before, if they don't come standard and they are additional, and so they can be harder to negotiate in if you don't have much negotiating power. There's two sides of this. So one is the purchaser, and so you need to understand what is the impact of these clauses. What happens? What is the time frame that these happen in? If it's a subject to finance clause, there is some requirements there. It's not just a blanket, you didn't get finance and so the contract is cancelled. If you didn't make enough attempts with enough reputable banks or banks that are named in that clause, you can be found to have not triggered that clause. And so it is a mistake that people make sometimes, that they go, well, I'll just sort of, if I want to back out of this, I'll just ask a couple of banks or a couple of institutions that I know, are going to knock me back, and then, I won't get it and I'll be able to back out. It may be that if you don't, do the proper process of trying to actually get the finance required, that you may still be on the hook. And so it's really important to understand, what do those clauses, what do they require? What's the impact if they're not met? Does it mean that your client is able to walk away, or could they still be on the hook? And it's the same for pest inspection and building inspection. Sometimes those will have specific requirements in them that need to be met. And it's the same on the vendor side as well. Important to understand what those requirements are. At what point does the contract become unconditional and therefore there's no backing out? And those are the things that you need to be able to advise your client on. And so you need to be looking out for those and seeing what the contract says in that regard. Next is early release of deposit. This is particularly if you are acting for the vendor. And so there may be instances where the vendor has appropriate, I guess, or sufficient finance or equity in the property that the purchaser would be willing to release the deposit earlier than at the final date. And so often this is something that is requested by clients, but if it's not requested by clients, then you should be offering it as well. And you should be saying to your client and advising them that they can make this request. In Victoria, it's from the date that you make the request until 28 days later, the purchaser has the ability to, on a reasonable grounds, to reject. And so those reasonable grounds have to, you in your request, you have to provide evidence of the mortgage and how much, you have in mortgage and all of those sorts of things. And if the purchaser doesn't think there's enough equity in there and there's a risk, then they could withhold that. But if after 28 days they don't respond, then you're able to just go ahead and have that released. But what's really important is that you offer that to your client and that you let them know that that's available and that you can make that request. On the purchaser side, it's important that you advise them as to what is in that request. Is the mortgage suitable for releasing their deposit? Is there going to be some risk if the deposit is released that the equity held by the vendor is not great enough that that there might be some concerns there. The next is stamp duty. And as Carol mentioned before, there are a number of exemptions or reductions in stamp duty, and so it's important. And each state and territory, it's different, and so it's important that you ask the questions that are relevant to your state and territory to understand the situation of your client. Are they a first home buyer? Are they going to be living in the property personally themselves? Is it off the plan? Are they a pensioner? Are they a farmer? Is this a transfer between spouses? All of these things may have an impact upon whether or not there is stamp duty or whether there's concessional stamp duty, all of these sorts of things. Are they a charity, for instance? And so it's important to understand that, and to then during the as part of your role as a conveyancer, you need to put forward the submission for duty, and so to be able to provide the relevant information so that stamp duty is charged at the rate that is required, and if there's an exemption, that stamp duty isn't paid. Mortgages on both sides of things, is really important to get onto this early. I've seen this delay conveyances a number of times where people haven't got onto it early enough. And so making sure that you've filled in the required paperwork if you're acting for the vendor to discharge the mortgage. And on the other side of things, that you have liaised with the bank or the finance institute for the purchaser to make sure that they're able to be in the PEXA workspace, and that finance will be available at the time of settlement. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at a delay. Settlement statements and statements of adjustment. This is an important thing to get right, because generally speaking, there will be some adjustments, and these might be things like council rates or there could be other things agreed in the contract to sale as well, i.e. if something is added in, or if something that you expected to be part of it isn't in there, then you might be making an adjustment for that. But getting this right is really important, because your client could be out of pocket if you don't get it right. And if you once settlement has gone through, it's too late to then go back and say, oh, we're now paying for your council rates that you didn't pay. You need to check those things. It needs to be in the statement of adjustments. And then you need to provide a settlement statement to your client afterwards, so that they have that information. They have all the relevant information. Then we look at settlement. And as Carol mentioned, this is now electronic. Gone are the days where parties would meet around a table and at the bank or the lawyer's office or something like that, and exchange all the documents. Now it all happens electronically. In many ways, it's great, but it can be quite complex to get your head around PEXA. And so my suggestion is that if you're looking at doing a PEXA settlement for the first time, that you give yourself plenty of time to play around with it, understand it. Don't leave it to the last minute. It can be complicated to set up the workspace, and getting all of the adjustments in, and making sure that the right parties are in, and the finances in, and all of those sorts of things. You want to make sure there's plenty of time, otherwise you might end up delaying settlement, and that of course can have impact for the client, but you might also have some liability as well if they have any liability as a result of that. And then the final thing is notices, and this is something that too often people forget to do. It's really important once the settlement has gone through to make sure that you send the settlement statement to council, to the water authority, and any other relevant required authorities. There are requirements by legislation to do these things. Sometimes people just don't, and I've seen times where that information hasn't been updated, and it's really important. It's the role of the purchaser's solicitor or conveyancer to do that, but you need to send those out and make sure that that is updated. So those are the things I want to cover off on. If you do all of those things, and they're listed there again, you more than likely will be a very professional and helpful conveyancer, and you'll do a great job for your client. Make sure that you're communicating and that you're sharing, all the information with your clients that they need to know, and that they are not left wondering what is happening in the process. The best way to have happy clients is to make sure that they know what's going on. Thank you. I'll just pass back to Carol now to take the next steps.
Very well said. Very well said. Okay, so what do you need to do to become a licensed conveyancer? So, as I said, legislation is pretty strict, and so are the regulations. So the first thing you need to do is phone NBIA and get yourself onto BSB 60220. Now, this is an advanced diploma. You can't have a certificate. You can't have a diploma. It's legislation states that you must have the advanced diploma of conveyancing. And again, we offer that. Also, depending on the state, WA at the moment, you need 2 years experience. At present, for New South Wales and Victoria, South Australia, you only need 1 year. So what I mean by that is that you need to be under a licensed conveyancer, okay? So they need to sign off on you, they need to train you, mentor you, and they're the only ways you can get a license. Now, every state, every territory is different. I know with New South Wales, I think it's Fair Work. Poor old Queenslanders, we can't become licensed. It's all governed under solicitors. But look, just check your regulation, and it'll advise you exactly how you can be licensed. One thing, you've got to be 18. You have to be 18 to be able to get licensed as well. And as I said, there's a whole list of criteria that will tell you, but the main things is that you need 1 to 2 years under a licensed conveyancer, and also the advanced diploma, which NBIA offer. So, our diploma, there are 15 modules in total, okay? So there are 9 core units and 6 elective units. Now, you must complete the whole 15 to be able to get your advanced diploma. Now, within those 15 modules, 9 core, 6 elective, we offer assessments, we offer online questioning, we do projects that will give you an overview of conveyancing. It's also based on the legislation and regulations, which we teach you how to search and look for those, because they are very, very important. Now, the modules, they range from accounting, and I know people don't like accounting, but we have to do it because we're governed by training.gov.au and ASPA. So they dictate what these modules are about. So it's all negotiation. You can improve on your negotiation skills. Like Jonathan says, sometimes you need to negotiate a special condition. So the course teaches you a little bit about that. Contract law, very important, okay? Especially there's one unit, it's BSB LG 522, all about contract law, all about the elements, what a contract is. So very important. Then we've got taxation obligations. Well, we all love that as well. But again, it does give you an insight, and we give you projects to do. We give you online questions to do, so you can do that. And also businesses. Now, with regards to this, we also have learning materials. So we just don't give you the questions. There's all sorts of resources that we can give you. Okay. So some of the assessments, as I said, there's role play, where you have to, your client is a purchaser, and they're going to go through the whole process from right from the beginning of meeting the client to right to the end, okay? And they're good. And you can do this with an assessor, or you can do it with a volunteer, completely up to you guys. Projects, these are interesting. All sorts of projects. So we have scenarios that, you know, you need to answer, and or actual, you need to do some type of accounting templates. All very, very good. There's also practical demos, and there's also, as I said, case studies. So we've got a range of things that we offer the student. We just don't offer them the good old questionnaire. So now, learning resources. These are so valuable as either a new student or a continuing student, okay, who has already signed up with NBIA. Our resources are excellent. We have student webinars. We have the on-learning the management system, which is Accelerate. Really easy to manipulate and go around and find where you need to go. We have learner workbooks and reference guides. Reference guides could be something along the line as we provide you with the majority of the legislation and the regulations, because you will be going to those regularly to answer questions. We also have, excuse me, got a bit of a cold. We have one-on-ones with a trainer and assessor. They're 40 minutes. All you need to do is just book that in with through head office at info@nbia.edu.au, and you can book those in case you're struggling with a student with a module, sorry, or an assessment, and they can guide you through those for you. We also have a help request chat system that's just been introduced, and also we've now introduced something else, and it's an introduction call with trainers. Okay, so the trainer will then show you how you can find things in Accelerate, like public notices, like your legislation, how to access your workbooks, how to answer, you know, where the questionnaires are. So it's really good if you're going to sign up, or you don't understand at the moment, you're only new to NBIA. I suggest that, because it is very good. The trainer and assessor will show you how to search within a legislation and a regulation, which is also helpful. So I think that's an excellent resource that NBI has now introduced.
Carol, wonderful.
That's all right. So I'm going to pass this all on to you now, Kerry. And look, thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks, Carol. And just back on what Jonathan was talking about, just so incredibly interesting and so important. I think some of the things that we don't always think about that's associated with being a conveyancer is things like the negotiation skills, really building a rapport with your clients, and having that communication. I think communication is key across any industry, but really important here, being prepared for your clients. So, and if you're not prepared, that, like Jonathan said, it can actually cause delays in certain areas. And I think also asking questions is a real skill. So knowing what questions to ask your clients and asking the right questions. So all of these are often, you know, named maybe soft skills or those types of areas, but they're incredibly important, and things that we'll also touch on in the course as well. So yeah, thank you so much. And Jonathan, I really related with how you said as well that it's one of the most valuable things that anyone will ever do. Purchasing a home, you know, it's a lot of money, you know, we're dealing with the cost of living at the moment, the interest rates going up and all the rest, and it does become very emotional for people. So yeah, really related with, thanks, Jonathan. So studying with us, you know, what are you going to get? So we have a 12-month program. It can be extended. And there is an extension fee involved with that. We're very open about the whole process. So it's 12 months though, and it's 15 units. So it's really about scheduling your work, and we have many people that have completed this program in the 12 months satisfactorily. So it's wonderful. Our program is 5995. And we do have a really wonderful payment plan option available. So, you know, if money's, you know, tight like most of us, it's interest-free, pay it off over the 12 months. You know, you don't want that to be a hindrance to your investment growth and learning and career, you know. So we like to make it as relaxing as possible for you. This is a self-paced program, so it's completely online. You can be, you know, full-time and working full-time career person, you know, maybe looking to change your avenue of where you're going. You can do it outside of the hours. You can do it on your lunch break. You can be overseas on a holiday and jump in. As long as you've got your laptop, as long as you've got some internet, you're good to go. And I think really that's where we're at now in society, is about just being able to squeeze it into our busy lives. So that's what we try to do for our students, is make it work with your busy lifestyle. So everything's there for you. As long as you've got a computer and the internet, we'll give it all to you there. So it's nice and easy. We for any course there can be a prerequisite. In terms of this course, it literally just is the equivalent to a Year 12 certificate. We will have a chat with you on enrolment around where you're looking to go, why you want to do this course. Do you have any experience in industry? Because my experience is an advanced diploma is quite a high level qualification, and it's not, I never say things are easy, you know, it's challenging, but it's exciting. So it's really important that you've at least got some idea on, you know, how I research and how I study and how I set up my time best and things like that. So we like to have a discussion with you when you're enrolling with us too. And exactly just that, you know, you might want to join us because you're interested in law, or you're interested in helping people to get the best outcomes and reading contracts. You know, one of our trainer assessors, Paul, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, he's always said that you need to really enjoy reading a contract to be a great conveyancer. So these are just some of the things that we'll go through. The benefits, so why would you choose NBIA? One, it's a nationally accredited course, so you can study this course and you know, work in New South Wales or wherever. It's the courses are nationally accredited. There's real life examples that we like to use, and we like to produce industry ready graduates. So our program is designed around having all of the tools and resources and instruction to be able to then walk into the industry. You know, it's the only way to do it, because effectively, once you get this qualification, like Carol told us, you then get some experience and you can effectively get your license to be running your own business. And that could all happen within, you know, 18 months to 2 years, depending. So it could all happen very quickly for you. You'll gain lots of expertise in conveyancing and property law. You'll also attract the best employers, because we work with a lot of industry clients and things like that. So they're very aware of us and our programs. So you will attract good employers if you're looking to move into the industry, and please reach out to us, because you know, if you need some help getting in there, we're very happy to try and link you with industry. We've had many discussions with PEXA that we've integrated into our programs. So our newer students will be seeing all of the benefits of this. And also MYOB, as Carol mentioned, the accounting side of things. It's important. If you want to run your own business, you need to be able to use these systems. So we have them for you, you know, so that you're not running into industry with no experience in them at all. You've got our expert trainers and assessors. So you've just met two of them. We've got Carol and Jonathan. We've also got Paul. We've got Chantel, and we'll also have Fiona on board also, who will be very exciting to have on board soon. She actually has her own conveyancing business too. Flexible study options, like I mentioned, we'll do webinars throughout your course. And you'll also have the advantage of interacting with these trainers and assessors if, you know, to gain some more knowledge. So that's why we want you to come and study with us. And we've just got some reviews here. If you've, you know, had a look before, you might have seen some of the wonderful things that our students have said. We've got a lot of students that graduate with us each week. We're always proud to stay in touch with them and see what they're doing. One of the students we spoke with last week has now gained her license and has actually just started running her own business. So we're just so proud when we deal with our students. And you'll understand we like to really connect with everyone too. So we're here and we're available. We'd like to run through some questions and answers here. So if we can check the chat here and see if we've got some questions.
Yeah,
Hola.
Carrie.
Oh, hi, is that Natasha?
Yeah, here. Actually, we do have questions here on the chat box. First, we would like to ask first about the extension fee. Some other students are not recalling about the amount of fee. Would you like to let them know about the extension fee that we have?
Yeah, of course. So currently, for this course, it's $695 to extend for a full 12 months. We're willing to chat with you about your individual circumstance personally. So I saw Vala made a comment there. So I'm happy to have a chat with you guys individually if your circumstance sits a little bit differently. But generally, we can extend your program for up to 12 months. According to training.gov and ASQA, the maximum period that you can do this course in is 24 months.
All right. Also, they are actually asking if they could actually just like take a break for 1 month and then resume back for the course.
Yeah, I think again, it will be based on an individual basis. The course that you sign up for is 12 months. And again, we're very happy to have a chat with you and see what your circumstances are individually. So please just reach out. You can contact us at the info@nbia.edu.au, which is on your screen. And oh, that one's missed the nbia.edu.au. But yeah, very happy to have a chat with you individually on those things.
All right. Well, for the webinar, for the trainers, we actually have a question here. They actually ask how much work experience we need to get a license.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
You need, and it depends on the state. As I said, I think WA is 2 years. You need to be supervised for a minimum of 12 months.
All right, thank you. Also, out of 15 modules, which one are core and which are electives? What are the differences being core of electives to complete both types of module? This is from Kokila Parmar.
Wonderful. I'm happy to address that one. It's and that might have been asked before we went through it on the slides there as well, which is understandable. So it's 15 units and 9 are core. And then the electives are chosen actually around your individual state and what the requirements are of your state. So we've directly aligned it for you so that if you are wishing to gain your license in your state, they are the elective units that are required for you to have to gain your license. So we've set it all up for you so that you wouldn't need to branch out and do any other units. I hope that answers your question.
Sorry to interrupt. Actually, this is Aman, and I'm attending the webinar from NSW. I want to clarify the question which I just asked, like for the work experience, because I'm from NSW, as Carol mentions that in Western Australia, it's like 2 years. But in NSW, is it going to be 1 year? And want to know, can we do this experience under the lawyer, or we have to work under the conveyancer to get the license?
Question. Okay, so the minimum in New South Wales is 12 months, and it can be under a lawyer. It doesn't have to be under a conveyancer. So if you're working in a lawyer firm, but they just branch out in conveyancing, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
No
That's
problem.
perfect.
Are you working in a lawyer company at the moment?
No, actually not. But I know one of the lawyer who does conveyancing for us. So my husband in real estate. So that's why I want to be going this profession as well to help my husband in future.
There you go. Okay, well,
Thank you.
yes, no problem.
Thank
you. And Natasha, is there any other questions?
We have one more question from Felicity. Felicity is asking about whether it's possible to complete the course sooner than the 12-month period, and is the license process included in the course, or is it separate? So pretty much, I guess, what Karen has already covered about licensing, but just asking about the course duration.
Yes, so according to ASQA, there is a nominal hours that they require for you to complete, which means that you need to complete a certain amount of training and assessment hours. When you're actually completing our qualification, we've set it up in that way that you should be spending the correct amount of time doing these assessments, as well as reading the learner guides and you know, watching any webinars and those types of things. They'll create those hours. So if you can complete it sooner than the 12 months, yes, we've certainly had people complete it slightly under. Being an advanced diploma, you'll actually find it is quite involved, and to complete it much sooner is quite challenging, actually. But look, all to you if you can get it done sooner. Some people do just work faster and will get it done. And also, I find if you're working in the industry and you're doing it day to day, it's much easier to complete when that's your job, isn't it? So and you can give examples of real life scenarios and things like that. So absolutely, there is the option to complete it slightly sooner.
Any more questions?
Any more questions for us?
I think we're all good now. Yeah, if you actually have questions, you can still, you know, put it on chat or just raise it right away with our trainers and Carrie. Well, definitely they'll be, you know, answering all of your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, last thing from Zoe, is it possible to let us know that trainers are in what state?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think our trainers mind. I think it's pretty straightforward. So Carol is based in Queensland, and Carol, if you don't mind me mentioning, that she's a member of the AIC in New South Wales as well. So She's knowledgeable across the whole Eastern board, really. Jonathan's based here in Melbourne with us. We've got Paul, who's also Melbourne based or Victoria based, and Chantel's based in Melbourne actually as well. And then we'll also have Fiona based out of New South Wales. So that's where they're situated at the moment. Now, if we just move along.
Go to the next.
From Jadin or Hadin, if somebody have 3 or more years experience in conveyancing, will she get any benefit in course as well?
Oh, so that's a great question. So recognition of prior learning, absolutely. So that's very much on a personal basis. So we'd encourage you just to reach out to us, and we'll look through any experience that you've had, and it also is broken down by each unit. So we would then compare it to which units you will have reached the criteria that ASFA require. And it's quite an in-depth process that we run to do some recognition of prior learning, or also if you have current other qualifications that you have the exact units that you've already completed. We also do credit of units too. So please contact us directly so that we can look at your case-by-case scenario. But yeah, it's a great question. So I suppose I just wanted to throw to Jonathan and Carol really quickly, because we're just about to wrap it up. For our students or potential students coming on board, what is maybe one tip that you would give to a student who is looking to study or who is studying, from your experience as a trainer and assessor? So Carol, first, would you have just a hot tip to share? Yeah. Sorry, once again?
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail. Yeah, so true. I think based on everything that you've both spoken about today, particularly contracts and things, and then that's actually how our assessments are designed slightly as well, is that we test that attention to detail. So if you've actually read a question or not thoroughly read the question, you can actually maybe not answer it correctly. So, and it all is relevant, because it comes down to the end of the day, you know, you're going to be reading contracts and all the rest that comes with it. So attention to detail is a really great one. Yeah. And Jonathan, any other hot tips?
Yeah, I think one from me is just that generally anything that you do in this space will have some sort of law that it's tracing back to, and so a curiosity for learning is really important. It can be easy to kind of just look at, you know, what's in the workbook and not actually look beyond that, but looking at the legislation, looking at the case law, looking at what are the reasons for why we have to do the things that we have to do that are part of the process. And generally there'll be source law for all of those things. And so having a curiosity to find out where that's found and what it says, and why you have to do it is really important.
Brilliant. Yeah, completely agree. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Jonathan. Our contact details are here. If you're interested to speak to someone today, you can contact us on the email there or the phone number directly to speak with any of our staff. Happy to have a chat. Even, you know, no question's a silly one, trust me. We're happy to hear from you either way. So thank you very much for being here. We look forward to hopefully running a few more of these in the future. We look forward to any feedback if you're happy to share with us. And you'll also receive just a follow-up email from the session, so that you do have all of our details as well. So thank you again. Lovely to meet you and see you here, and take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.